All right, welcome everyone. So today we're just going to do a really quick video on some tips and tricks for collecting data for our recognition application. So let's dive right in. So the first thing that we wanted to mention is that metrics are a really important part of our recognition application. And this is because out of the 383 points that are available for recognition in our new application, about 250 of those are tied to metrics. All that said, you don't need to worry because you don't need all of those points to be perfect for recognition. Right now, under our current system, we require about 100 points for gold, 50 points for silver, and 25 points for bronze. And part of the reason that we do that is because we recognize that sustainability is an ongoing process and that continual improvement is a necessary part of the journey. So we're trying to recognize businesses for where they currently are, in addition to pushing for that increased sustainability over time. So we have a screenshot here of what one of our metrics-based questions looks like on our new application so that you can kind of get a glimpse at it. And what we've done is we've actually combined the baseline metrics question and the current year metrics question into one question so that you can really easily see where you're entering all of your data, compare your data over time, and see exactly where you're at with our current score. So what we have here is we have a section for our baseline year metrics and a section for our current year metrics. And you can see we have it all filled out and that it's auto calculating use intensity. So we're going to talk through exactly what each of those terms means so that we're all on the same page and can move forward with the application really easily. So what is a baseline? A baseline year is the first year that you're regularly collecting and tracking data for a given resource. So whether it's energy use or water use, the first year you track that data is probably going to be your baseline year. You can pick for the application whatever baseline year you'd like for us to use, and that's the year that we're going to compare to your current year data in order to get a sense for reductions over time. So what you want to do is select a baseline that works for you to tell the story of the effort that you've put into your reduction. So as an example, let's say we're a brewery and we're applying for recognition. The baseline year that we have is 2007, because 2008 is really when we started all of our effort on energy reduction and conservation. So 2007 is a good baseline year because it shows you what business as usual is before we started all that effort. So we have 2007 written down here, and you can see that that's the baseline year we've entered. We've got the total electricity use for 2007, and then we've got our use intensity metrics, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a minute here. But for a brewery, a good use intensity metric is per barrel of beer produced. So a use intensity formula is basically the thing that changes your energy use, right? If I produce more beer, I'm going to be using more energy in my operation. So a per barrel of energy use is kind of something that helps tell the story of the conservation efforts that I've put in. I can make my beer production more efficient, even if my energy use goes up a little bit because my production increased. I'm still using less energy per barrel. So that's why the energy use intensity matters. So you can see that I've entered in the number of barrels that I produced in 2007 as my baseline use intensity variable. And that gives us a use intensity or an electricity use per barrel for 2007. So as I just mentioned, use intensity is a formula that really allows you to tell the story of your energy reduction over time, regardless of other variables that have changed. So in order to pick a good use intensity variable for your organization, you really want to think through what is the thing that impacts our energy use most. If you're an office, it might be number of employees, right? Or number of customers served if you have people coming in and out of the space all the time. For organizations that produce a product, it might be units of product produced. So it's going to change based on your operation, and you get to pick the use intensity formula that you give us, and we'll use whatever you give us to assign points based on reductions over time. The important thing is that you use the same type of variable between your current year and your baseline year so that we have an apples to apples comparison. So again, when we go back to this example, you can see that we have that 2007 barrels produced variable here, and that's what allows us to calculate the intensity use for that year. And then when we assign our current year data, we're looking at 2021 in this case as the most recent completed year. So this was a 2022 application. So their most recent completed year was 2021. They've given us their data for 2021, which will compare to their 2007 data. And then they've also given us their 2021 variable. So you can see in the case of this example brewery, they've actually almost doubled their beer production. So of course their energy use has gone up, and you can see that in both of these numbers. But if you look at their intensity use has gone down because their per barrel of beer produced electricity use has gone down. And that's the way that they can tell the story of efficiency efforts that they've put into their brewing process. Maybe they've purchased a new energy efficient still, maybe they've replaced their lights, but they've done something to reduce their energy use from what it would be if they hadn't put that effort in. So the real reason we're using use intensity formulas in our application is because they help you. It's kind of the ultimate normalizing factor. It helps you tell that story from your baseline to your current year, even if your square footage has changed, your number of employees have changed, you grew as a business over time, you had a weird year one year, right? It kind of helps normalize that data so that we can still see what's happening in your organization, regardless of your total use. So when you pick a use intensity formula, you want to pick something that changes and impacts your resource use. And it can be different for different resources. So maybe your water use is per employee because it's just the water that you're using in restrooms, right? Primarily, or in break rooms. But your energy use is tied to your beer production. So you want to use per barrels of beer produced for your energy use, but maybe not for your water use, or vice versa, right? So depending on your operation, you're going to want to pick the use intensity formula that makes the most sense for that resource. The other piece that I wanted to mention here is that if you are changing facilities, use intensity formulas helps you do that because you can get a per square foot of facility space metric from a use intensity formula. And that allows you to say, okay, our old facility was 15,000 square feet. Here was our energy use per square foot. We've just moved into a new facility. We put a ton of effort into efficiency upgrades in that space before we moved in. So the comparison might be, well, now we're at 20,000 square feet, but our energy use per square feet has gone down significantly because of all the upgrades we made to that new space. So you can also showcase changes from facility to facility if you're using a per square foot use intensity formula. A couple examples of the data that we see on our end, just so you have that to kind of look at. You can see in places that we've highlighted in the red boxes here where we received data that either didn't make a lot of sense or that maybe didn't work for the business's advantage in the application. So in this line, you can see for the 2017 baseline year, we have a per unit of product produced metric. But for the current year, we don't have current year data, and it's defaulted to square footage, which is going to be a different variable. So what we want to make sure is that we're entering data into both those fields. And again, we've combined those fields in our survey now so that you can see them right next to each other and you can see your auto-calculated use intensity metric so you know exactly where you stand. But you want to make sure you're really consistent across the 2 years and that you're giving us the same metric in both of those examples. And one thing to note is that if we don't get any use intensity formula from you, we are going to default to square footage, since that's kind of a standard that's used in Energy Star and other organizations. So if we don't have a number from you, we're going to try and create one. But the ideal is that you're picking one that you think makes the most sense and that maybe you all use internally for your success metrics. So again, we want to highlight this. There's not a need to have all of your metrics perfect in order to apply for recognition. You don't need 250 solid points, right? So we're really looking at this as a process of improvement over time. And we want to see as much data as you have, and we're available to help you work on making your data better over time so that you can move from bronze to silver and silver to gold. So again, if you have any questions at all about this process, please feel free to reach out to us. We're always available and we're happy to be in contact with you. And I hope this video really helps kind of streamline your process, answer a few of those basic questions, and give you a head start on your application for June 30th. Thanks so much and have a great rest of your day.